And if you get the wrong person in, it can actually slow you down like massively. It's going to waste a lot of your time. For people in our company, you walk into our office, it's like, it's a pleasure to be there. Everybody wants to help each other. They're there because they want to be there, not because they have to be there. It's really hard to find that kind of setup, and you really should aim for that.
This is episode number 43 of the Short-Term Rental Success Stories podcast.
Are you an investor that's looking to have your home professionally managed? Go to cohostit.com for more information. Welcome back to Short-Term Rental Success Stories. I'm your host, Julian Sage. This is a show where I talk to hosts about their journeys in starting and growing their short-term rental business. My goal is that you'll be able to walk away with practical information that'll help you become a better host and learn how to scale your business. Like any exceptional host, we all strive for 5-star reviews, so please go on over to iTunes and let us know what you enjoy, as it really helps support the show. If you haven't done so already, go on over to our Facebook group, The Host Nation, to connect with the community.
Hey, what is going on, Host Nation? I'm super excited to be back again with you this week. I'm still in Colombia. I'm in Medellin at this time, and next week I'll be back in the US. But I'm super blessed and happy to be able to operate a business that is able to work while I am away. So even as I'm traveling, I'm still getting paid out, which is just super cool. And I can't wait to keep on growing this. And I'm glad that I'm able to talk with y'all and see all of you all growing in the Host Nation Facebook group. And being able to talk with you on the emails. I actually sent a pretty funny email from some of the lessons that I learned from losing my phone and operating this type of business, and some of the things that I had to be able to work around after losing my phone. So, the luxury of this business is being able to travel. But when you are traveling and you're dependent on your phone, that can be a little bit complicated when you do end up losing it. So I took my phone for a swim, then realized that phones do not do well diving underwater, and they're not actually supposed to go in salt water or be in the water for more than 30 minutes. So I did everything wrong. Now my phone is dead. And so I shared some of the lessons that I learned on the email. So if you haven't subscribed already to the show notes, go to shorttermsage.com/show notes. And you can stay up to date with the success secrets from every single episode. There's a lot of really good info on these show notes, so definitely go over and do that. I love being able to reply to your guys' emails and talk to you through there as well. But let's just jump into this episode. And today I have the special honor of speaking with Allan Cuevas. Allan is a host who manages over 50 units in Budapest, 32 being co-host properties, 18 are rental arbitrage. Now, Allan has had to learn through the School of Hard Knocks how to scale a business, because at 25 units, Allan was almost completely burnt out trying to do everything himself with managing and scaling his properties. It wasn't until he realized that he needed to build a team to be able to help him run his business so that he was able to scale and focus on growing rather than operating. Now, Allan has a team of over 6 people, which includes an operations manager, a property manager, reservation team coordinator, part-time admin, and more. This is a great episode for scaling hosts, as Allan shares the importance of focusing when scaling or starting this business, because it's very easy to get distracted with all the new shiny objects, like starting a cleaning business, starting a taxi service, starting a concierge service, all these different things that can come with this new niche in the short-term rental space. How to operate at scale and not get burnt out, what it's like managing a team, and more. This is a great episode. Don't want to miss it. As always, if you like my show notes for this episode, go to shorttermsage.com/STR43. Or if you like my show notes sent directly to your inbox every week, then go to shorttermsage.com/show notes.
With all that being said, on to this week's conversation. Hey, welcome back, Host Nation, to another episode of Short-Term Rental Success Stories. In this episode, I have the special honor of speaking with Allan Cuevas. Allan, would you please introduce yourself? Let the Host Nation know who you are and what inspired you to get into short-term rentals.
Hey guys, happy to be here. Thanks, Julian, for inviting me on your show, and it's a real pleasure to finally meet you. So my name's Allan. I've been in short-term rentals for 5 years now. I live in Budapest, Hungary. I basically fell into short-term rentals by mistake. I was teaching English when I started, and I was moving out of my flat. I was going through a breakup, and I lived in this flat with my ex, and she moved away, and I was like, okay, I need a fresh start. And it was a beautiful, huge designer flat, and I decided I wanted a fresh start. So I offered the owner of the property to manage it for him on Airbnb. I had never managed a property for anybody before. I knew what had to be done because I'd stayed at a few Airbnbs before, but I'd never actually kind of managed a property for someone. And I just kind of wrote a quick business plan on paper, a projection. I went on to Airbnb. I kind of scraped data from Airbnb and figured out what the rates were. And then I put a business plan together. It was very basic. I just basically wrote down, look, I think this is the occupancy I can get you. I think these are the rates I can get you. And therefore, this is the income I can get you versus long-term rental, which means you'll earn more money and I'll earn some money on the side as well. And that was my first property. I sent him the proposal and he came back to Budapest because he doesn't live here. And we sat down for coffee and I showed him the numbers. And he was like, yeah, let's do this. This sounds cool. So that was my first property.
Your first property was a co-host property. What made you think that someone would be interested in that? Because this is 2014. Co-hosting
Yep.
probably wasn't as big of a thing as it is like now. And especially in Budapest. What was that like in Budapest? Coming up with that idea, was that pretty foreign?
I knew there was a few Airbnb properties around because I'd stayed in Airbnbs in Budapest. So I knew there was like property managers around. I didn't really know. You're right. Like back at that time, it wasn't even called co-hosting. It was just called still it kind of amuses me because people go, yeah, this whole co-hosting model. But for me, that was coined by Airbnb. And when I started out, there was no such thing as co-hosting. It was just called managing, But at that time, there was there wasn't really that many management companies around. I knew there was a few property managers about. And I kind of just made it up. Like, I don't know why I sat on 20% for the commission. I can't remember why. I was like, I think 20% is like a good number because I'm going to be doing these tasks. And I just kind of went with it. Like I didn't really know what I was doing. I just put it together and said like, yeah, let's just go for it. And that was my first property. So. And
did you, when you were talking to them, did you say that this is going to cost potentially this much to be able to furnish? Like how did you even come up with those numbers, or was it already fully furnished?
Yeah, so this flat was already fully furnished. So that was done. Like I knew that this flat could sell well on Airbnb because it was already designed and furnished. It's a beautiful, huge flat. So later on when I got, started getting other co-hosting gigs, we got into kind of doing design work and renovation work for owners. But that first one, it was ready to go. So it was just like, it's ready to go. Okay, I need a budget to buy like towels and things like that. Maybe a few lamps, put up some pictures. Yeah, there was a few things that needed doing on the property, but generally it was like ready to go. And so when the owner was ready, I just started. I got the professional pictures done, and then we put it up on Airbnb, and it was super exciting, man. Like getting your first booking on your first property, it's like super exciting. Like, oh man, this first guest is arriving in 2 weeks, and you're preparing everything. It was awesome. Like, yeah.
You were scraping certain data. You were trying to find like occupancy, how much the rental rate could be. How close were you on the info that you were scraping to where the property was actually renting for?
I'd say like 90 to 95% accurate. I was looking at similar properties in like downtown, so I found similar, comps. We call them comps, like competitive sets. So I found similar properties which I could use as comps and say, right, this property that I have looks similar to this one, but this one's more central and downtown, and they're charging, I don't know, what is it, 60, 70 euros per night in January. I think because it's a similar category or level, but it's a little bit further out, probably I'd get like, I don't know, 30 to 40% less than that. And I just kind of based the numbers around there. And also looked at similar properties in the area and just looked at the rates and kind of looked at calendars ahead and to see how booked out the other properties were. And it was pretty accurate. The rates that we were getting were on par with what I'd kind of forecasted. So, yeah.
So when you did this first property, did something light bulb must have went off, because you went from having one property to now you have over 50 properties that you're managing. What was the progression of your next properties like?
So it was really organic, actually. like I said, I was teaching English at the time, and for me, it was just a kind of like a side gig just to get some extra cash. I never imagined starting a company and getting 50 properties and managing a team and going through all that stuff. It just never kind of popped in my mind at that time. The way I got my second property was a good friend of mine. I was telling a good friend of mine about this property that I was managing on Airbnb. And I had Excel records, like I kind of put together a basic spreadsheet of like, these are the bookings, here's the sales. So we could calculate the owner's kind of end of month statement and the percentages and the commission rates, etc. So I had this kind of Excel table, it was all neat and tidy. And I was showing my friend and he was like, wow, this is fascinating. Like, I've actually got a property which is sitting empty. It's like a studio and it's totally, it's a bomb and it needs to be renovated. Why don't I renovate it and you can manage it on Airbnb for me? And I was like, yeah, that's cool. Let's do it. And it took him like 2-3 months to renovate. And that was my second property. And then I got like 2 more, through a friend, on Arbitrage. So was telling a friend in London about it. And he was like, hey man, I'm interested in this too. Like, let's partner up and let's get a few Arbitrage properties. And then there was 4, and then just kind of, it's a small city, and being an expat in Budapest, the network is quite small, so you can kind of connect with people very, very quickly, and word kind of spreads around quite quickly. And then people were just talking about, like Alan's managing Airbnbs and property's doing well and getting like pretty good money and takes care of everything. And then it was like 5, and then somebody else was telling somebody else, and then I got another 3. And then when I got to 8, I remember when I was on 5, it was super exciting. I was literally in English class. I had my students like, sitting at the board table because I was teaching like business English at like companies. And I just remember my phone going off all the time. I was like, oh man, new booking. And like the students were like doing their tests and stuff. And I just totally wasn't interested. I was like, oh man, I can't wait to get home and like, check all the bookings, write to the yes. It was just like so exhilarating just seeing the bookings coming in. It was by that time at 5, like teaching English full time and then managing 5 properties. It was getting pretty difficult to juggle things. Like, I remember going to bed. My fiance right now, she saw everything come in. She was there from the beginning, like even before I had my first property. And I remember there was times where we'd go into like family dinners or family events, like an Easter family thing. And I was just on my phone, like changing prices on calendars. And I was like, I have to do this. And it was like till 11 o'clock. And she was like, when are you going to put your phone down? And I got to do it. It was just super exciting. It was more than full time at that time teaching English. And then when I got my 8th unit, I was like, right, this is actually, I can quit teaching English now, and I'll get these 8 properties, and then maybe I'll get like 5 more, and then I'll stop there.
And then
that's what I told myself. Yeah, that's what I told myself.
That's funny. A lot of people, it's actually kind of funny. A lot of people, they get into this and they think, oh, I'm just gonna do this as a side gig, get 1 property, make a little bit of extra money, and then it's like, now I have 5, now I have 13, now I have 50.
It can happen pretty fast as well. Like if you're doing a good job, if you're good with hospitality and good with people, like it just can grow like really fast, just even organically. So,
how long was it until you got to around 8 properties?
That was within like 8 months. It was almost like 1 a month. Yeah.
Wow. And at that point, you knew that your passion was kind of moving towards managing properties, and you wanted to do this full time. What did you? Because you said that you had a full time job, 8 properties. What did your system look like back then when you were first managing those 8 properties to where it is now?
I wouldn't really call it a system. It was just me. I had like a few cleaners. I think I had like a couple of cleaners. I had a driver who was doing airport transfers for the guests, and he was kind of helping me on the side doing a few check-ins. It was just like a little bit rough and ready, and just there was no system. It was just like me and like, okay, there's a lock broken. Okay, I'm going to go bring my toolkit and go fix it. And I think that's how it is for most people in the beginning. You're just, there's enough stuff for you to do, but there's not, there's not enough stuff where you'll just go crazy. You just kind of do it. But that was the setup. It was just me, being the kind of property manager, the housekeeping manager, the pricing manager, like guest communication service, like everything. Like you just do, you wear all the hats basically, and that's how it was.
Yeah, I definitely want to get more into the structure of your team because that's pretty interesting. But I want to go back and hit on something real quick. You said that a friend came up to you and they said that they actually wanted to get started in the rental arbitrage space. 2014 was around when this happened.
Yeah.
And so that rental arbitrage, it's blown up recently. Everybody wants to get into the rental arbitrage space. What was that concept like back in 2014, and especially in a place like Budapest, where it wasn't probably as popular as maybe just like managing other people's properties.
Yeah, so that's another phrase which kind of amuses me, like co-hosting and arbitrage, because they've been around for ages actually, and now it's called a thing, like, with like Brian Page out there and this whole arbitrage thing. But it has been around in Budapest for a long time. A lot, like probably not many people know this, but the biggest players here in Budapest who run 200 to 250 units, they're all arbitrage guys. They don't do any co-hosting at all, and they are killing it, man. They get like whole buildings, they get blocks of buildings, they get 30, 40 flats in one building, and they arbitrage the whole building. They're essentially like a hotel. It's been around in Budapest for ages. Like, I think one of my good friends here who does, I think he's got like 180 units on arbitrage. I think he started like in 2010. So like 10 years ago almost. And they just did the arbitrage model. They weren't managing for other people. They would go and find units, like they'd go and find like 5 or 10 units in a building, pay a fixed rent, put it on Airbnb, and then just pocket all the difference. So, yeah.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. But your first deal with your partner, how did you structure that? Were they the one that was upfronting the cash and you were just doing the managing, or how did you structure that?
The way we structured it was that I would still get like a management fee, but like 20% or something like that. And then whatever was kind of left over, that would kind of be like his passive income. But there's one thing that we learned from that. Not all arbitrage deals are equal. I know that a lot of people get into it, and we don't do arbitrage now unless it's like an amazing deal. So the first arbitrage deals we did, they made money in the summer months, but we didn't realize that we would take massive hits in the winter time. So it can be really, really, and we had to shut those properties down, a few of those early arbitrage units, because we thought there would be enough margin based on the data that we had from the 2 or 3 units that we had, the market data that we had. We were like, yeah, it looks good, the numbers look good. And then it just came to winter, and it was just dead. And you're forking out money to pay rent for these units, and then you're like, holy shit, man, this is not good. So we only take arbitrage units. We still have 18 now out of the 50, but we only take arbitrage units if they're a really good deal, and only if usually they're like multi-units. So there's like 3 or 4 units in one building.
What qualifies a good and bad arbitrage deal?
It's really to do with the rent. Like, I see a lot of people out in the community, and for me, it's mind-boggling the risk that some people take, paying like really high rents. I just wouldn't take that risk. Like, for us, a good arbitrage deal is, let's say, the rent is like a third of the revenue. So if the rent is like $500, then the revenue should be minimum kind of $1,500 to $2,000. Then you've got enough, buffer.
And you see a lot of people getting into the space where the revenue that they're making is too close to the rental price?
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I just remember seeing a few people around and they were like, yeah, my rent's like $1,000, or like 1,500. And then my projected revenue is like 2,200. And it's like, that's crazy, man. Cause if you do hit like a bad season, you've got rent, you've got bills. It's just, sounds too risky to me. So yeah.
So you actually prefer the co-host model over the arbitrage model?
I wouldn't say that. There's pros and cons with both. Co-hosting in itself can be very difficult because you're dealing with many clients, and you're managing the expectations of the client, which can be almost like the hardest part of the job, is managing client expectations. It really depends. Like, I like both models. That's why I always recommend to people who are starting out to start out with co-hosting, because it's virtually like zero risk on your part financially. Like, you just start marketing the property, you get a percentage of the revenue, and that's it. Like, you've got no costs. Like, if it's a bad month, it's a bad month. Okay, you get less share, but you don't have to fork out anything after that. So yeah.
And you said dealing with clients is one of the most challenging parts. So going back to the progression, now you have 32 co-host clients, and you've built up a team of about 6 people. When did you realize it's like, okay, I really need to start finding ways to be able to replace myself, or to be able to take the burden off of this, because you were scaling it at the time?
I think it was at around, I think it was around 20. I think I had around 25 units, and it was just, I was almost burnt out. Like, I was in total overwhelm. It was like clients were calling me, the team, I only had a smaller team at that time as well. The team were like, what should we do with this guest? Then there was like no maintenance. The maintenance guy's not available, so I've got to go. It was just like, it was crazy. It was chaos, total chaos. And I almost got burnt out, and I was like, there's got to be a better way to doing this. Like, because you remember I told you I was supposed to stop at like kind of 12, and that would be enough. And then I was like, no, I got to get more. And then I was like, I don't want more. This is crazy. But funnily enough, it's easier running the 50 now than it was running the 25, just because I didn't have the experience. Like, I think around 25 properties, that's when I realized like that something's going to change here. Like, something's not right. Like, why am I stuck in the middle of everything? Yeah.
I see you on Facebook a lot, and you're very active in the groups, which is, really, really awesome, because you do have a lot of experience. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see new hosts getting into? Because a lot of hosts, typically they start, they're stuck at around 1 or 2, but then there's those people that are trying to take this a little bit more seriously and scale it. And, for the majority of the people, they might get around 5 to 8, but to get past that, the people that have multiple, it starts to change. What's keeping people from being able to scale up to 50? Because a lot of people get stuck at around 5 to 8, but then you said yourself that it changes when you are scaling up past that 15, 20.
Yeah. So when you get to 15, 20, it really does start to change. All the challenges and issues and problems that you have managing those properties start to compound, and they, it's like, it's not like 1 + 1 = 2. It's like 1 + 1 = like 10 at that stage, because you're dealing with multiple issues at the same time, multiple clients at the same time. And I think, this is actually what I teach on my, my consulting program. So what I teach some of my students is, you really need to develop the right mindset when you start to scale. So what I see is a lot of people get into the business and they kind of approach their business like an employee. They don't really approach the business like a business owner. It's a very, very difficult thing to do. It doesn't happen overnight, but you've really got to have a shift in mindset that, okay, I'm the business owner. I try to explain it like a football team or something. You don't want to be one of the players on the field. You want to be the owner in the box, kind of strategizing like, okay, which players are we going to put so the team can win next season? You know what I mean? You got to really develop that mindset. And I see a lot of people getting in and doing a lot of kind of low level stuff. They think they need to do it, or they think they need to solve everything. And that's just not true. I know I went through it myself. It took me a while to develop that mindset, but once you do, you really start to look at your business differently. So I think, in answer to your question, there's a few things I see. So if you want to go from 20 to like 50 or something, whatever it is, to get the next 10, 30 units or whatever, 10 or 20 units, there's a few things which people, I think, get wrong. Is the mindset, like I said. And the second thing is simplicity. Like, people just don't keep things simple. I'm super guilty of this. When I was doing my property management business, and I see like some of my students and some people that I talk to, they're not keeping things simple, and they tend to overcomplicate things, and they don't stay focused. So they're like, all right, I've got this property management business. Wouldn't it be nice to start like a cleaning business? Wouldn't it be nice to start like a tour business? They start getting into all these other tangents. And I'm super guilty of this. I did this in the past as well. It's the whole shiny new object syndrome that entrepreneurs suffer from. They start going off and getting into side projects and not staying actually focused on the core business, which is managing the clients and the clients' properties, and providing an excellent service for the guests. And you can get distracted really, really easy. It's like, for me, for example, that slowed me down a lot. Like, I was just, I was just getting into like stupid things. Like, I was overseeing, because I'm quite creative. I'm quite a visual person. I used to draw when I was younger and everything. So I loved getting into design work. I loved when owners were like, okay, I need my property designed. I was literally going out to pick like the tiles for the kitchen. And like, now when I think about it, I'm just like, what the fuck was I doing? That's like mentally stupid or what? Like, or, we have a partner who does like airport transfers. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start like an airport transfer company, because that's going to bring like an extra stream of income. And literally I spent 2 weeks doing business plans for like a transfer company, trying to work out costs. And in the end, it was just like a total waste of time. Like, I could have done it, but I got roped back into my main business. And then that turned out to be just a huge distraction. I remember I even had a meeting with some software developers and saying like, right, this is the app I need for the airport transfer. And it was totally, it's, in a small way, it's related to the property management business, but it's just, it was big, massive distraction. So that's one thing I see, people who want to scale up, that's one of the mistakes that I see, is like, they don't keep things simple and they don't stay focused. I think if you stay focused and you work on the core business and get super good at that, and then when you've got solid operations, and then when you've got the free time and you don't need to be there every day and you don't need to oversee things, then you can kind of start your side gigs, your side businesses attached to your main business. So keep things simple. Like, if people who are thinking of like doing like a tour business as well, like, just find a partner to do that. Just find somebody who's doing tours. They've got their whole operation set up, and then you just send them customers, and then you just get a commission. Like, it's like super simple. Just keep it simple, guys. So, yeah.
I think that's the first time that I've actually heard this on the show, but I think that really spoke to a lot of people. It spoke to me because, being an entrepreneur, you see all these things, and a lot of entrepreneurs fall into that shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
So I think you really spoke to a lot of people that are getting maybe distracted with all the other potentials with it. Starting a cleaning company, starting up maybe a luggage service company, the taxi service. There's a lot of ways that you can make money in this business. But like you said, if you're focusing on all these other things, you're taking away from the core thing that is your business, being the management of other people's properties or your own properties.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with doing starting up those things. But, if you haven't got like solid operations set up, and it's really not set up properly, it just won't happen, because you'll just get sucked back into the operations because something's not right. There's a cog in the machine which is missing, and then you have to get pulled back in to fix it. And yeah, I wasted a lot of time on that. So
Now, going back to the teams, you because really what it sounds like is when you're first starting off, it does, there's no rhyme or reason to what you're doing. You're trying to do everything yourself. After maybe around 2 properties or some experience, you have some processes documented in place for you to be able to start having things a little bit more systematized. But then there comes a point where you're doing a lot of the menial tasks within your systems and you need to be able to scale up. At what point did you say, like, okay, now I have these things, these processes, now I need to find people that can replace me so I can become the person in the booth and not be the person on the field?
So the first thing that, like, you got to bear in mind that when I started, there was no, like, there's so much software out there and there's so many tools out there. It just amazes me. Like, I wish I had this stuff when I was starting out. But at that time, there was nothing. There was no automation or anything like that. There was no smart BNB, auto messaging software. Channel managers were really underdeveloped. I don't think even Guesty was out at that time. We had the first versions of like Logify. It was just really, like, it's still not fully developed. I think the industry is still underdeveloped. But at that time, there was like nothing. So the thing that ate up most of my time, which I wanted freed up, was guest communications. So my first hire was just like an all-rounder. She worked like full time and just doing a little bit of everything, a little bit of admin, a little bit of guest communications, a little bit of dealing with clients. And that was like my kind of like first hire. So just like a generalist, mainly taking my time away from guest communication so I could focus more on like pricing or going to meet new clients to bring in more properties.
So the first person was the communications. So let's say something like Smart BNB or some type of automated messaging software. What was the second person that you decided to replace you?
The second person was also like a generalist, because the thing is, when you get one person, you don't realize that person needs days off and they need holidays and they have sick days. Like, even at like 10 or 15 properties, I remember that time, we were just kind of managing between the two of us. There was so much to do, organizing things, because we didn't even have software at that time. We didn't even have a channel manager. So I basically got like a part-time generalist, I think, just someone to help out when one of us wasn't available. Because, it's hospitality as well. It kind of the day starts at like 8 or 9 in the morning. And then if you've got guest arrivals in the evening at, after 7 or 8, like, somebody needs to be available to respond to what's going on. Or, if there's an issue at one of the properties, somebody needs to be able to respond. And that just went on for a while. Like, I think I had just those two for quite a while. Yeah.
And the breakup of your team is pretty extensive now. You have an ops manager. You said you have a part-time admin. You actually have a property manager and the reservation team. Do you mind breaking down who those people are and what are their responsibilities that they have been able to relieve yourself of?
Yeah. So I think we were at like 40. I think around 40 units. I was like, okay, it's time to get an ops manager. And for me, that was like an essential. Like, I needed somebody who could be my second in charge and who could take a lot of the decisions, day-to-day operational decisions, on my behalf. So the ops manager is basically the second in charge. Like, everybody goes to him first. If it doesn't get solved there, then it comes to me. And that I find that just like super important. You really need somebody who knows what they're doing as well, who knows how to manage a team. I'm super, super grateful for my ops manager, Erdem. He's an incredible guy. He worked in 5-star hotels, so he's been in hospitality for a long time. And the guy's a gem. Like, he takes care of the team. He motivates the team. He keeps them together. He worked for 5-star brands like Mandarin Oriental, Four Seasons, I think for Intercontinental as well. So he has the hospitality experience. And that's super, super important. knowing how to deal with guests and having that level of customer service where you can deal with guests and clients at the same time, and also knowing how to manage a team. And that really helped me a lot. That took a lot of time off me. Yeah. So that's my ops manager. On the reservations team, we've got like kind of like a supervisor and then 2 agents. And they do office admin and guest communications, and also taking care of the guests. They do some check-ins as well. Mainly their main role is guest comms. So I know a lot of people now, which is quite new, they use VAs, but we use in-house because it adds more value. Like our people can also be here on the ground. And for us in Budapest, it's not a massive difference. Actually, I think it's like similar pricing to what a VA would cost us. But then we actually have somebody here on the ground, which obviously is much better than having a VA who's never been into our properties or knows the city or anything like that. The admin I need because Hungary is not an English-speaking country. The people speak English here. I've been here for 6 years, but my Hungarian is terrible. My boy is like teaching me now, my little 2.5-year-old. But I need to have like an admin person and just to like do translate. And it's tough for Hungarians to do administration here. So imagine as a foreigner, it's even like 10 times harder. So we need to have like some admin in the office helping out. And then we have a property manager as well. So.
And the property manager's role, they do what?
Property manager is doing everything from dealing with the client. So they're kind of like an account manager as well. They deal with the clients. If there's an issue with guests, they're the first person that, like, for example, the reservations team will contact. They'll say, look, we've got an issue with guests. How do you want to escalate it? Like, we think it's pretty serious, or we don't think it's serious. Like, how would you like it handled? Kind of like a step under the operations manager. And they also check the reviews. They do spot checks at the property. So they are basically kind of account manager, and they know the properties. They know the clients. They have a closer relationship with the clients, and they know what's going on with the properties, and they can make higher level decisions than, let's say, the guest communications team can.
What are you looking for when you're trying to build out this team to, fit these specific types of roles that you were previously doing?
It's not really skill sets that we're looking for. I think skills can be developed. This is something which I teach on my program as well. Like, this is probably, I don't know if many people realize this, but the people side of the business is one of the hardest parts of the business. Like, if you get the wrong person in, if you get our team's like amazing now, but we've had like different people come in, and if you get the wrong person in, it can actually slow you down like massively, because, if that person needs to be managed, or if they're the wrong fit, if they don't have the right kind of strengths for what you want to put them in, it's just going to it's going to waste a lot of your time, because you've got to find another person. You've invested time in that person. You've invested time training them. And if you don't get the right person from the beginning and build the right culture within your team from the beginning, there's a few things that can happen. Number one is that person will just leave, and then you're kind of left high and dry. Then you got to find somebody else. You got to retrain them. So that's time and money. And the second thing is, if you don't have the right person, it can almost destroy your team. It was close to us, where there was a few times it happened in my company where people were just bickering, and I couldn't understand it. I was I read a whole bunch of leadership books and everything. And in the end, I figured out what it was it was just the wrong people, somebody who didn't have to fit the culture of the business. So our culture is all about for people in our company. You walk into our office, it's a pleasure to be there. Everybody wants to help each other. They're there because they want to be there, not because they have to be there. And that's gold. If you can find people like that, if you've got a process in place where you can find people like that, that's just gold, because I mean, that's why I'm not there that much anymore, because those people are there and they're running the show, and they want to do a great job, not because they have to, because they want to do it, and they enjoy each other's company, and they want to go in the office. They want to help each other. It's really hard to find that kind of setup. And you really should aim for that. Obviously in the beginning, it's a little bit more difficult because, you may not have the budget to get the people that you want. But if you kind of if you be patient enough and wait for the right fit, it's going to save you way more time, and it's going to be, a lot easier for you in the long run. So.
Is there like something in your questionnaire or when people are applying for the job, like what's the one thing that you're looking for that will kind of click and be like, oh, this is the right person?
It's not one thing. So we actually have a process. There's like 7 key ingredients. There's a whole section which I like teach about this, but I would say one of the key takeaways, the key things that you need to look for is, what are the person's strengths? So there are like multiple things that you need to look for, like, are they a good fit? Are they hungry? Are they humble? All these kind of things. But there's one thing when you're placing somebody within the team, like understanding what are their natural core strengths. Kind of like, I always use this analogy, like don't ask a fish to climb a tree. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a little cartoon. It's on the internet. I think I did a video on it before, where there's the headmaster's there at the table, and there's 5 different animals. There's like a monkey, an elephant, and like a fish in a bowl, and the guy's saying like, okay, for a fair test, like I want everybody to climb that tree. And it's just, you've got to understand that like people have different strengths. Like I'll give you an example. I hate administration. Like it just gives me a headache. It totally drains me. I love sales and meeting people and marketing, that kind of stuff. I'm like a vision guy. When it comes to admin, like it just, like I feel sick just like saying the word. And there are people out there, if you like, there's a test which they can do, like a personality test, and you can tell like it's super accurate. Everybody we've hired, we put through the recruitment process, and they do this personality test, and we go, right, this person's super high in admin, and we get them on the team, and it's exactly right. Like the fit is 100%. We're like, do you want to do this admin with? Oh yeah, I love doing that stuff. Give it to me. And if you've got clarity on that, that saves you loads of time as well, because you're not kind of putting somebody in somewhere just kind of guessing, like, I think they might be good at this. Like, if they're going to be good at it or not. And then you don't waste your time going, oh, why aren't they doing it? Like, you're trying to push them and like motivate them. But it's just like, if they're not naturally in tune with that, that task or that responsibility, you're never going to get them. They're never going to be good at it. Probably they've got a strength in something else, which you need to move them. So.
No, and Allan, you are sharing just so much golden information in this episode. This is really, really good. One of the things that you brought up earlier that I want to touch on again is, you said as the business kind of grows, there's different opportunities. So like one thing that you said is that you have the opportunity to work with people developing properties to be able to get them up to scale. And I've seen your website, I've seen your properties, and wow, those are beautiful places. But what are because you also brought up that it's not maybe a good idea to take on too much, and you should really focus on the core business. As all these new opportunities come up with like property development, maybe working outside of Budapest into other maybe more remote locations, what do you feel, having over 50 properties, do you think is it too much to start going and trying to do other things like property development, remote managing, or is that just an entirely different ballgame with managing a business at scale?
I think that like if there's opportunities there which you can take, like go for it. But I think if you're not kind of coping with where you're at, like right now, if you're finding that you're just always being pulled into the business, always being pulled in, and then your hours are all over the place. You've got irregular hours, like, I don't know, finishing at 11, some like 3 days a week, finishing at 7 2 days a week, and then it's just all over the place, and you haven't got a solid structure and foundation, I think it's dangerous to get into new opportunities. Like if you've got like, solid ops and you've a stable structure, then I don't think there's any reason why you can't go for it. But I just know from my own experience that I tried different ventures. I tried to take on other opportunities because that's what I do. I spot opportunities and I'm like, I want to take advantage of this. And I did that too many times too early on. And I should have been, in hindsight, in retrospect, I should have been focusing on really building out the structure and the foundation and the systems of the business rather than going off. Because you kind of convince yourself that everything's all right. You're like, I think everything's fine. I'm going to go and do this project and then see your team, see you guys, see you later. And then you start focusing on one thing, and then all of a sudden the shit hits the fan and your main thing, and you're like, oh man, this is okay. Maybe now is not the right time to be working on this other thing. And so you got to be careful with that. That's why I say, like, keep it simple. Focus on the core things. Really, really focus on your business and make sure it's set up properly. Just stay away from temptation and distraction in the beginning, I think.
Were there any types of opportunities? Because as you get your name out there, as people recognize what you're doing, people are going to come up to you and they're going to pitch you a lot of different ideas and a lot of different types of projects. Was there any ideas or projects that maybe you kind of went into and then realized that this is maybe a waste of time, or this really isn't going to get anywhere?
I don't think so. I think like I'm pretty good at spotting if something's not gonna work. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities came up, and kind of just looked at it and went, I don't know if that's gonna work. But I think maybe in the earlier days, yes, probably. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but probably there were some opportunities where I thought, like, I mean, that's a classic example, this airport transfer thing. I was like, okay, I'm going to open up an airport transfer company. Now, if, at that time I was kind of like, fresh and cocky and being like, wow, yeah, I can totally do like a side business. And looking back, like, even if somebody now came up to me and said, do you want to start an airport transfer business? I'd be like, hell no, I don't want it. Like, I'd rather just deal with the owner of that business and then work out some kind of partnership deal. That's like way easier than me trying to set up a whole other team, managing a whole nother company. And I just don't want to get into that. So I think with experience, as you get more experience, you start to filter out and you start to understand, like, is this really going to help me achieve my goals over the next year or not? Or is this is this a distraction? So, yeah.
What have you noticed now, having done this for about 5 years, over 50 properties, and you've seen the progression of Airbnb and short-term rentals in Budapest. What's the competition like now, and what are you doing to set your units apart?
We're trying to just, provide like a really good service. Like, there is a lot of competition out there now. When I started, like 5 years ago, there was two market conditions which made it easy for us to get units. Number one was there wasn't many other management companies. And number two was the state of the real estate market. Real estate properties, like buying like a new property, was relatively cheap compared to what it is now. Like, property prices have increased 4-fold in some areas. And obviously when property prices go up, you get less investors coming in to buy and putting it on Airbnb. And so, it changed the market conditions a lot. So I've seen it over the 5 years, the change a lot. The other thing is like restrictions. Like, I know it's not as strict as some states in the US, but we're getting like restrictions here as well. Like, this all affects the market. And then obviously management companies as well. So people have more choice. They can go to, like, where before there might be like kind of 3 or 4 companies they might be thinking about. Now there's like 10, 15, 20 companies they can think about. So this does make it tricky. But what can you do? You just have to try and like serve your clients as best you can. Obviously, you've seen like our website. We tried to keep our branding apart, like have a very distinct design, look and feel, and kind of provided like a unique stay for our guests to kind of separate us from the market. But yeah, it is interesting to see what's happened over the past kind of 4 or 5 years. The market's changing. It's still changing a lot. So,
do you think it's still a viable business going forward into the future?
I think it is. I think definitely it is. I just think it's going to be, I think what's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years, there's going to be some kind of market consolidation. I think a lot of people will exit the market. I think maybe the restrictions will kind of ease down a little bit because now they're super harsh. Like here in Budapest, we just found there's a rule in one of the districts that there's going to be an increase in this virtual parking fee. Like it's just some rule that they made up. Like if you want a permit, you have to pay like for a virtual parking space. I have no idea how that is related to Airbnb because most of the people that come to Budapest come in by plane. And the local government is saying like, yeah, you need to pay for a parking space because there's not enough parking spaces. Like, okay, what's that got to do with our guests? So I think there's going to be some market consolidation. I think it's going to be good for operators like us who are professional operators because it's going to be more difficult for the smaller operators. I don't know if that's probably not a good thing for the smaller operators, but there will be some kind of market consolidation. So the more pro you are, if you got really like a pro business, then you probably can like do well through this whole transition as the market kind of matures. So,
and if you could go back from scratch and restart what you're doing, what would you do differently if you did have to restart from scratch?
That's a good question. I can wholeheartedly say, I would probably just focus. Probably I would have at that time, like I think I wanted to do everything myself. I don't know if it was like an ego thing or something like that. Like, yeah, I'm going to figure everything out myself. Probably if I had started again, I probably would have like got a mentor or something. Somebody who said like, do exactly this. Okay, you're at this stage now. Go to that step, because it just would have saved me a lot of time and energy. Maybe who knows, I could have got there in half the time, maybe, which is massive. And time is you can't get time back. So I would probably say that, yeah, if I had the opportunity, if I found the right person, I probably would have got a mentor, somebody who really like knew what they were doing and who'd been through it before, because it would have saved me like loads of time. And personally, I would have, like if I was having a conversation like Alan now, speaking to Alan like 5 years ago, I'd be every day be going like, dude, stay focused. Don't go off and do that. Stay focused. Just keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate things. Just stay focused on what you're doing.
And focusing on what specifically?
Just focusing on the core business, not going off and trying to do side projects, and focusing on, because it's the same thing again. It's like there's so many side businesses you can attach to the main business. Like you can do renovations, interior design, you can do transfers, you can do tours, you can do like a laundrette, you can do luggage, you can do this like it's like unlimited. You can add a lot of extra things. And I think I probably tried to do all of them. And yeah, you just got to kind of put the fluff out and just focus on what you're doing, which is like managing the properties and making sure they're full and serving the guests and serving your clients.
As you brought up that there's a lot more property managers in the space right now, what will differentiate property managers that are listening to this episode from everybody else that is coming into the space? Is there to be able to stand out when everybody maybe is offering similar services? How do you set your services apart?
That's a really good question. I don't have like a super clear answer for you, because it's like, I mean, a lot of people can do this business. I think what will make you stand out is how well you can take care of your clients' properties. I think that's something key that we figured out in the last, let's say, 6 months to a year. We set up this structure, and like, we're serving our clients at a much higher level now. I think if you look at the large companies, like the really, really big companies who have 2,000 units and 4,000 units, and you look at the client reviews, they're not serving their clients. Like, you can see the reviews, and the clients are leaving because they're just not happy with the service. Like, I don't know, light bulb wasn't changed in 3 months or something like that. And we had the same problem because we didn't have the right structure set up. And so that will set you apart. If you're providing like an amazing service, and you're really taking care of the assets, which is the properties, the property owners, and you're taking care of them, and you're taking care of the relationship, I think that'll set you apart from other property management companies. Especially when the other companies get a lot bigger, they tend to lose that kind of personalized service. And you have to remember, the clients are almost like, the clients feel like they might only have like one property with you, but they feel like they own a hotel, like a 100 bedroom unit hotel. And when you're dealing with 20 clients, you're kind of dealing with like 20 hotel owners. So if you can take care of them, and you can take care of their hotels, I think that'll set you apart.
That's an amazing analogy. I really like that. I'm going to use that one moving forward, if you don't mind.
No worries.
That's good. Last question that I want to hit on, because I know that you got to spend some time with your family. But you're at a position right now that a lot of people are not at, but maybe they would like to get at, where they've replaced themselves from the business to a certain extent, and now they're focusing on maybe growing or exiting, whatever that is. But what question do you have, maybe for someone that's in a similar position or the next position from where you'd like to be? What question would you ask that professional host?
I'd probably ask him, like, what's your plan for the next year or two? Because it's really about what's going to happen. For me, it's like, what's going to happen with the market. So the question I would probably ask him, like, would be the same question you asked me, is like, where do you see the market going? Like, what are your plans for your business for the next 6 to 12 months? Do you see it expanding? Like, how do you see the market conditions affecting the inventory out there? Probably ask them a very, very similar question to what you asked, is like, where do you see this going? And what if it goes this way, what are you going to plan to do? If it goes that way, what are you going to do?
In regards to potentially like an exit strategy, or in regards to what?
In regards to, like, are they planning on staying in longer, expanding, or, are they going to get out? Are they going to exit? I'll probably ask them something like that. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Allan. You've just shared such a wealth of knowledge, and I see you on Facebook a lot. If there is anyone that wants to reach out and maybe has some more questions, what's the best way to be able to reach out to you?
So they can join. I've got a free Facebook group called the Airbnb Empire Academy, and they can reach out there. They can post questions in there. I'm always happy to help people who are looking for guidance. I also have like a one-on-one consulting program. If people want to go from become like a professional host and turn it into like a company, like a real business, and they want to step out and become a business owner, I've got a program you can just write to me on Facebook. But yeah, there's a free group called the Airbnb Empire Academy. It's totally free. You can come in there and just ask a bunch of questions. And, I always like helping out people, whatever level they're at. I'm always like, enjoy helping people. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Allan. I'm, super, super honored, humbled for you to come onto the show, and I'll include everything in the links in the descriptions to be able to connect. And thank you again. Until next time, Host Nation, keep on hosting.
Thanks, Julian. It's been a pleasure.
Hope you hosts benefited from the show. If you found value, please go on over to iTunes, leave us a review, and let us know what you enjoy about the show. If you'd like to talk to hosts that have been featured in these episodes as well as the community, go on over to our Facebook group, The Host Nation.